In the beginning there was nothing. Then God spoke the world into being. He made the heavens and the earth. He made the sun, the moon, and the stars. He made the oceans and the mountains, the rivers and the valleys. He made the plants and the animals. God saw that everything he had made was good. But something was missing. God wanted someone to share his creation with, someone to love and to love him back. So, on the sixth day, God created man. He formed man from the dust of the ground and breathed life into his nostrils. Man became a living being, the crown of God's creation. God named him Adam. God planted a beautiful garden in the east called Eden. This garden was unlike any other place on earth. It was a sanctuary of peace and beauty, a place where every plant and tree flourished. The garden was filled with vibrant colors, from the deep greens of the leaves to the bright hues of the flowers. It was a place where life thrived in abundance, and every corner of Eden was a testament to God's creativity and love for his creation. Eden was a paradise, filled with delicious fruits and flowing rivers. The trees were heavy with fruit, offering a bounty of food for anyone who lived there. Rivers flowed gently through the garden, their waters clear and pure. These rivers provided life-giving water to all the plants and animals in Eden. The sound of the flowing water was like music, adding to the serene and tranquil atmosphere of the garden. It was a place where every need was met, and there was no want or lack. The air was fresh and sweet, and the sun shone brightly. The climate in Eden was perfect, with warm, sunny days and cool, refreshing nights. The air was filled with the scent of blooming flowers and ripe fruit. It was a place where one could breathe deeply and feel invigorated by the pure, clean air. The sunlight filtered through the leaves of the trees, casting dappled shadows on the ground and creating a beautiful, ever-changing pattern of light and shade. Animals lived in harmony and birds sang in the trees. In Eden, there was no fear or danger. The animals coexisted peacefully, each one playing its part in the delicate balance of nature. Birds of every kind filled the air with their songs, creating a symphony of sound that was both soothing and joyful. The animals roamed freely, and there was a sense of mutual respect and understanding among all living creatures. It was a place where harmony and peace reigned supreme. God placed Adam in the Garden of Eden to take care of it and enjoy its bounty. Adam was given the responsibility of tending to the garden, ensuring that it remained a place of beauty and abundance. He worked the land, planting seeds and nurturing the plants as they grew. But his work was not a burden, it was a joy. He took pleasure in seeing the fruits of his labor and in knowing that he was fulfilling the purpose for which he was created. The garden provided everything he needed and he lacked for nothing. He gave Adam one simple rule: you may eat from any tree in the garden, but you must not eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. This tree stood in the center of the garden, its fruit tempting and beautiful, but God had made it clear that this tree was off limits. It was a test of Adam's obedience and trust in God's wisdom. The rule was simple, yet profound. It was a reminder that even in paradise there were boundaries and limits that must be respected, for when you eat of it you will surely die. This warning was not just about physical death, but a separation from the perfect relationship with God. It was a serious command, one that carried significant consequences. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil represented a choice, a decision that Adam would have to make. It was a choice between trusting in God's provision and wisdom, or seeking his own path. The presence of this tree in the garden was a constant reminder of the importance of obedience and the potential consequences of disobedience. Adam was content in the garden, surrounded by God's blessings. He had everything he needed and more. The beauty of the garden, the abundance of food, the harmony with nature, all of these were gifts from God. Adam felt a deep sense of peace and fulfillment as he went about his daily tasks. He knew that he was in a special place, a place that was created just for him. The garden was a reflection of God's love and care, and Adam was grateful for every moment he spent there. He named all the animals and lived in perfect harmony with nature. This task of naming the animals was a significant one. It was a way for Adam to understand and appreciate the diversity of God's creation. Each name he gave was a recognition of the unique qualities and characteristics of each animal. This act of naming also established a bond between Adam and the animals, a relationship of mutual respect and care. It was another way in which Adam fulfilled his role as the caretaker of Eden. But even in paradise, Adam felt a sense of loneliness. Despite the beauty and abundance of Eden, there was something missing. Adam had a deep longing for companionship. for someone who could share in his experiences and understand his thoughts and feelings. The animals, as wonderful as they were, could not fulfill this need. Adam's loneliness was a reminder that humans are created for relationship, not just with nature, but with each other. It was a longing that would soon be addressed by God in a profound and beautiful way. God saw that it was not good for man to be alone. He said, "I will make a helper suitable for him." While Adam slept, God took one of his ribs and closed up the place with flesh. From the rib, God made a woman. When Adam awoke, he saw the woman and said, "This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, for she was taken out of man." God named her Eve. Adam and Eve were naked and unashamed. They lived together in perfect harmony with God and all of creation. One day, as Eve was walking in the garden, she encountered a cunning serpent. The serpent was the craftiest of all the wild animals the Lord God had made. He was a liar and a deceiver, and he hated God and his creation. The serpent approached Eve and questioned her about God's command. "Did God really say, 'You must not eat from any tree in the garden'?" he asked, twisting God's words. Eve, taken aback by the serpent's question, replied, "We may eat fruit from the trees in the garden, but God did say, 'You must not eat fruit from the tree that is in the middle of the garden, and you must not touch it, or you will die.'" Section 5. The Forbidden Fruit. In the heart of a lush, verdant garden, where every tree and plant seemed to sing the praises of creation, there stood a tree unlike any other. This tree bore the most beautiful and enticing fruit, a fruit that was forbidden by the Creator himself. The garden was a place of peace and harmony, a sanctuary where every creature lived in perfect balance. But amidst this paradise a shadow lurked, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The serpent hissed, "You will not surely die." The serpent, with its cunning eyes and smooth, deceptive voice, slithered through the garden, its presence almost unnoticed among the vibrant foliage. It was a creature of subtlety and guile, always watching, always waiting. It approached Eve with a promise that seemed too good to be true, a promise that would change the course of history forever. For God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil. The serpent's words were like honey, sweet and alluring, filling Eve's mind with visions of wisdom and power. It spoke of knowledge that was beyond her wildest dreams, knowledge that was forbidden but oh so tempting. The serpent's voice was a whisper in the wind, a promise of enlightenment that was hard to resist. The serpent's words were tempting. The fruit itself was a marvel to behold, its surface gleaming in the dappled sunlight, each curve and contour promising a taste that would be beyond compare. It hung there, just out of reach, a symbol of everything that was forbidden and yet so desperately desired. The air around it seemed to hum with a strange magnetic energy, drawing Eve closer and closer. Eve looked at the forbidden fruit. She gazed at it with a mixture of awe and longing, her heart pounding in her chest. The fruit seemed to call out to her, its silent song filling her mind with thoughts of what could be. She could almost taste it, the sweetness, the promise of knowledge and power. It was a temptation that was almost impossible to resist. It looked delicious and desirable. The fruit was not just a feast for the eyes, but a promise of something more, something deeper. It was a symbol of everything that was forbidden, and yet it was so tantalizingly close. Eve could feel the weight of the serpent's words pressing down on her, urging her to take that first, fateful bite. She began to doubt God's words and believe the serpent's lies. Doubt crept into her mind, a shadow that darkened her thoughts. The serpent's words seemed to make sense, seemed to offer a truth that was hidden from her. She wondered why the fruit was forbidden, why the knowledge it promised was kept from her. The more she thought about it, the more the serpent's lies seemed like the truth. Eve reached out, took some of the fruit, and ate it. Her hand trembled as she reached for the fruit, her fingers brushing against its smooth surface. She could feel the weight of the moment, the significance of what she was about to do, but the temptation was too strong, the promise of knowledge too alluring. She plucked the fruit from the tree and took a bite, the taste sweet and intoxicating. It tasted sweet in her mouth, but it left a bitter taste in her heart. The sweetness of the fruit was overwhelming, a burst of flavor that filled her senses. But as the sweetness faded, a bitterness took its place, a bitter taste that seemed to seep into her very soul. She felt a pang of regret, a sense of loss that she couldn't quite understand. The fruit had promised so much, but it had taken something from her as well. She gave some to Adam, who was with her, and he ate it too. Eve turned to Adam, her eyes filled with a mixture of excitement and fear. She offered him the fruit, and without hesitation he took a bite. The same sweetness filled his mouth, followed by the same bitter aftertaste. In that moment they were united in their disobedience, bound together by the choice they had made. In that moment, everything changed. The garden, once a place of peace and harmony, seemed to shift and darken. The air grew heavy, the light dimmed, and a sense of foreboding filled the space. The very ground beneath their feet seemed to tremble, as if the earth itself was reacting to their choice. The paradise they had known was gone, replaced by a world that was suddenly unfamiliar and threatening. Adam and Eve's eyes were opened, but not in the way the serpent had promised. They looked at each other with new eyes, eyes that saw the world in a different light. The knowledge they had gained was not the wisdom they had hoped for, but a painful awareness of their own vulnerability and imperfection. They saw their nakedness, their frailty, and they felt a shame that was new and overwhelming. They felt shame for the first time and realized they were naked. In their newfound awareness, they scrambled to cover themselves, to hide their nakedness from each other and from the Creator. They gathered leaves and fashioned makeshift coverings, their hearts heavy with the weight of their disobedience. The innocence they had once known was gone, replaced by a knowledge that brought only pain and regret. The forbidden fruit had given them what they sought, but it had also taken away something far more precious. As the sun began to set, Adam and Eve heard the sound of the Lord God walking in the garden. Fear gripped their hearts. They knew they had disobeyed God. They were ashamed of their nakedness and afraid of His punishment. They tried to hide from God among the trees of the garden. They sewed fig leaves together and made coverings for themselves. But God saw them hiding. He knew what they had done. He called out to Adam, "Where are you?" Adam and Eve came out from their hiding place, trembling with fear and shame. They had disobeyed the one command given to them by God, and now they were about to face the consequences of their actions. The once serene and harmonious garden now felt like a place of dread and foreboding. Every rustle of leaves, every whisper of the wind seemed to echo their guilt. They could no longer hide from the truth or from the eyes of their Creator. The weight of their disobedience pressed heavily upon their hearts, and they knew that nothing would ever be the same again. They confessed their sin to God. With tears streaming down their faces, they admitted to eating the forbidden fruit. Their voices quivered as they spoke, each word a painful reminder of their betrayal. They had been given everything they needed, yet they had chosen to reach for what was forbidden. The gravity of their actions weighed heavily on them, and they could feel the chasm that had opened up between them and their Creator. They had lost their innocence, and with it, the pure and unblemished relationship they once had with God. Adam blamed Eve, saying, "The woman you put here with me, she gave me some fruit from the tree and I ate it." In his desperation to deflect the blame, Adam pointed to Eve, hoping to lessen his own guilt. His words were filled with a mix of regret and accusation. He could not bear the full weight of his own responsibility and sought to share the burden with his partner. The bond of trust between them was now strained, and the unity they once enjoyed was fractured by blame and recrimination. Eve, in turn, blamed the serpent, saying, "The serpent deceived me, and I ate." Eve's voice was filled with sorrow and frustration as she pointed to the serpent. She had been beguiled by its cunning words and had fallen into its trap. The serpent, with its sly and deceitful nature, had led her astray, and now she faced the consequences of her actions. The harmony of the garden was shattered, and the trust between all living beings was broken. The serpent's deception had sown seeds of discord and mistrust that would echo through the ages. God, in His perfect justice, pronounced judgment on the serpent, the woman, and the man. His voice was firm and unwavering, filled with both sorrow and righteous anger. The consequences of their actions were not just punishments, but also a reflection of the brokenness that sin had introduced into the world. The harmony of creation was disrupted, and the perfect order that God had established was now marred by disobedience and rebellion. Each judgment was a reminder of the gravity of their choices and the far-reaching impact of their actions. To the serpent He said, "Cursed are you above all livestock and all wild animals." The serpent, once a creature of beauty and grace, was now condemned to a life of humiliation and degradation. Its role in the deception had earned it a place of dishonor among all creatures. The curse was a stark reminder of the consequences of leading others astray and the heavy price of deceit. The serpent's fate was sealed, and it would forever be a symbol of treachery and cunning. "You will crawl on your belly, and you will eat dust all the days of your life." The serpent's once majestic form was now reduced to slithering on the ground, a constant reminder of its fall from grace. Its life would be one of perpetual humiliation, crawling in the dust and dirt. This curse was not just a physical transformation, but also a symbol of its degraded state. The serpent's actions had brought about its own downfall, and it would bear the marks of its deceit for all time. To the woman he said, "I will make your pains in childbearing very severe." The joy of bringing new life into the world would now be accompanied by great pain and suffering. This was a poignant reminder of the cost of disobedience. The process of childbirth, which was meant to be a beautiful and joyous occasion, was now marred by the consequences of sin. The pain of labor would serve as a constant reminder of the fall and the brokenness that had entered the world. With painful labor you will give birth to children. The act of bringing forth new life, a moment of profound significance, was now intertwined with suffering. Each contraction, each pang of pain, was a testament to the altered state of the world. The woman's role as a life-giver was now marked by the consequences of the fall, and the joy of motherhood was tempered by the reality of pain and struggle. This was a stark reminder of the far-reaching impact of their disobedience. Your desire will be for your husband, and he will rule over you. The relationship between man and woman, once marked by mutual respect and equality, was now altered. The dynamics of their relationship were changed, and the harmony they once enjoyed was disrupted. The woman's longing for her husband and his rule over her were reflections of the brokenness that sin had introduced. The unity and partnership they once shared were now marred by a power imbalance and a struggle for dominance. And to Adam he said, "Cursed is the ground because of you." The very earth that was meant to be a source of sustenance and life was now cursed. Adam's disobedience had far-reaching consequences, affecting not just himself, but the entire creation. The ground, once fertile and abundant, was now marred by the curse. The relationship between man and the earth was altered, and the ease with which he once tended the garden was replaced by struggle and toil. Through painful toil you will eat food from it all the days of your life. The ease and abundance of the garden were now replaced by hard labor and sweat. Adam would have to work tirelessly to coax food from the ground. The joy of tending the garden was now overshadowed by the reality of toil and struggle. Each day would be a reminder of the consequences of his actions, and the once harmonious relationship with the earth was now marked by pain and effort. It will produce thorns and thistles for you. The ground, once a source of life and sustenance, was now filled with obstacles and challenges. Thorns and thistles, symbols of the curse, would make the task of cultivation difficult and painful. The beauty and abundance of the garden were now marred by these reminders of the fall. The struggle to produce food was a constant reminder of the brokenness that had entered the world and the consequences of disobedience. And you will eat the plants of the field. The abundance of the garden was replaced by the need to gather and cultivate. The ease with which Adam once found food was now replaced by the necessity of hard work and effort. The plants of the field, once freely given, were now the result of toil and sweat. This was a stark reminder of the altered state of the world and the consequences of their actions. The harmony and abundance of the garden were now a distant memory, replaced by the reality of struggle and effort. By the sweat of your brow, you will eat your food until you return to the ground. The daily struggle for sustenance was now a part of Adam's reality. The sweat on his brow was a constant reminder of the effort required to survive. The ease and abundance of the garden were replaced by the reality of hard work and toil. Each day was a reminder of the consequences of his actions and the altered state of the world. The harmony and ease of the garden were now replaced by the reality of struggle and effort. Since from it you were taken, the ground, once a source of life and sustenance, was now a reminder of Adam's origins and his ultimate fate. The connection between man and the earth was now marked by struggle and toil. The harmony and ease of the garden were replaced by the reality of hard work and effort. The ground, once a source of life, was now a reminder of the consequences of disobedience and the altered state of the world. For dust you are, and to dust you will return. The final reminder of the consequences of disobedience was the reality of mortality. The harmony and ease of the garden were replaced by the reality of death. The ground, once a source of life, was now a reminder of the ultimate fate of all living beings. The connection between man and the earth was now marked by the reality of mortality and the consequences of disobedience. The harmony and ease of the garden were now a distant memory, replaced by the reality of struggle and effort. God's judgment was swift and severe, but it was not the end of the story. Even in their sin, God showed his love and mercy to Adam and Eve. He made them garments of skin and clothed them. God also gave them a promise, a glimmer of hope in the midst of their despair. He promised that one day, a descendant of Eve would crush the serpent's head, defeating sin and death forever. God drove Adam and Eve out of the Garden of Eden, but he did not abandon them to their fate. He continued to care for them and provide for their needs. The story of Adam and Eve is a timeless tale that speaks to the deepest truths of the human experience. It teaches us about God's love, our own sinfulness, and the hope of redemption. We see the beauty of God's creation and the wonder of human life. We see the consequences of sin and the pain it brings into the world. But we also see God's faithfulness, his mercy, and his plan to redeem his fallen creation. The story of Adam and Eve is not just an ancient story, it is a story that continues to this day. We are all children of Adam, born into a world broken by sin, but we are also loved by God, who sent his son Jesus to be our Savior and Redeemer.